So what we have here is Felix again, and Felix is a Belgian Malinois from my first litter between Nero and Sophie. But in this section, I want to be talking about motivation and drives. Now, Felix has a very high hunger drive and a very high prey drive. The problem with Felix, for some reason, he loves to chase things, but he has a hard time gripping things and keeping them for long periods of time. So what I normally do is I like to start dogs off with hunger drives. The reason I like hunger drives is because it kind of does two different types of motivation at once. Okay, so we'll talk more about operant conditioning later in classical conditioning, but primarily hunger drive satisfies the need to eat. Okay, for example, when a dog is very hungry, when it eats something, it satisfies that hunger. Now, for anybody that's ever been hungry, that makes sense. But with a lot of dogs, if you free feed your dog, say you put a bowl of food out during the day and you leave, then chances are that dog's not going to have a very high food drive or hunger drive unless it's genetic. Okay, so that's because why should they focus on treats and food when they get to eat all day whenever they want? So with my dogs, they get a very strict ration because A, it keeps them healthy, and a dog that is in a good weight range will live 3 to 4 years longer than a dog that's overweight that you commonly see in American households. So they get a very strict diet, and a lot of the time they get most of that, if not all of that, through training itself. So hunger drive is a very good one. Now let's take a step further into it. Now Felix is clicker trained, okay? So whenever he hears this click, notice his ears pop up, he looks at me, he's conditioned for that. So whenever he hears the click and the act of receiving the treat, then that itself is reinforcing the behavior to him. But adding that on top of satisfying your hunger, it's a double whammy, so it's even more impactful on reinforcing of that behavior. So that's why I prefer to start off with food motivators. Now, later on in training, what's going to happen is he's going to get burnt out on simply just receiving food. So we'll have to start tying in prey drive, the game of chase, the engagement with me. And you see this a lot with working dogs where they go through a routine, sit down, stand, whatever, and then they mark and reward the dog with the game of tug. So they will get a very high motivation. And the reason that works is because dogs are genetically engineered for the chase. In the wild, they are prone to do a lot of chasing because in the wild they only get their prey very few chances, very few percentage out of the attempts. So they have to be genetically engineered to be really motivated to chase things. Because if they don't have that genetic drive to chase things, then chances are they're not going to survive. So it's very hardwired into their being to enjoy the chase. So we will incorporate that in training as well. Another issue with motivation we see is isolation. When your dog lives with you in the home all day, every day, then seeing you and interacting with you isn't that big of a deal unless it's genetic and they're just, that individual dog is primed for that. But as a generalization, if they see you all day, every day, and then you want to go outside and engage with them, they're going to check out and go explore new things because it's more interesting. So if you're going to be working with your dog, then either A, incorporate that training into your daily routine, or isolate them so whenever you do let them out of whether it be the yard, the kennel, or the crate, they're going to be even more excited, even more energized, and more focused on you as the handler to start training. So with these three things that we use primarily in our training program, we get a very motivated dog. But it's very important to know the balance. So I highly recommend for anybody interested to figure out how to motivate your dogs even more, go to Learburg and get Michael Ellis's DVD on motivation, because I mean it's like a college class on motivating dogs. So That's a very good thing to understand, is how to start off with hunger drive, because they're genetically engineered to hunt things. We move into prey drive, and then we also incorporate isolation.